Oh, yes. You remember that welfare benefits? Yes. You know, I have often said that if I could get my rights enforced, the law would have to give me the same benefits that Heidi received. That would be victims housing. Yeah. Section 8. Ooch. Emergency victims benefits. But somebody decided that they weren't going to give me notice of court hearings. They decided that every man must be guilty of child abuse and child or domestic abuse. Yeah. The problem is when you don't give a person the actual notice and opportunity. It's one of these situations where there could be hundreds of thousands of dollars of unlawful, ooch, unlawful pooch. Now you were going to have me have to pay for all of that, weren't you? Yeah. But you didn't want me to appear in court. You didn't want me to tell you what really happened. Unlawful redemption of food stamps. You know, there's a few different ways to look at food stamps. There's the Quest card. Yes. There's the food stamps throughout the nation. Pooch. There are those that receive emergency welfare benefits because of domestic violence or some other victimization of crime. Yeah. And then there's the use of food stamps. Pooch. Not every place will accept them. There's, well, let's think about it for just a moment. Let's say, that your family, right, controls the actual amount that you receive every month. And you have to spend them at certain locations, or you can spend food stamps wherever you want. You know, I did make some phone calls before we went to Guam about, well, we like to travel, and even though we're on welfare, we want to be able to spend the food stamps we receive in the state of Washington in a different location. And that time we were thinking about going to Idaho. Well, why don't we look at all the food stamps that have been transferred from one state to another? Because there seems to be some state liability when it's the unlawful redemption of food stamps. Yes, they thought that since you're on welfare, you're too poor to go on vacation. Ooch, you're too poor to visit relatives. And that it's like you have to only buy the food in the state that receives the food stamp benefits. Why don't we look at each state and how much do they receive in federal funding for food stamp recipients for the last 40 years? And then we're going to look at all the emergency food stamp recipients that had to receive food stamps because of being a victim of a crime. Oh. Then we're going to look at all of those that transfer their food stamps from Guam to Washington State while leaving their spouse in jail because he didn't commit any domestic violence or child abuse. Yes. And then we're going to look, and we're going to look until I get all of the individuals that didn't actually move from one state to another. They were residents of the Washington state when they applied for food stamps, but we were residents of Guam at the time that we received food stamps. Yes. Now, you decided to transfer the food stamp benefit from Guam, yes, to Washington state. I took our food stamp benefit from Washington state to Guam. Yes, but they transferred it to Guam when I didn't want it transferred. Pooch. Well, I didn't go to reapply for food stamps when we got to Guam because I had earned approximately $25,000 in 1 month. You know, when you're a commissioned salesperson, yeah, the money that you receive doesn't happen every month. Sometimes you'll be, well, penniless. Yes, no income. And then all of a sudden you have that 1 month where you get that big payday where multiple commissionable products pay at the same time. Yes. And then you're able to buy plane tickets to Guam approximately, well, Heidi was 7 months pregnant. It was about $8,000. You might find on my drive, yes, the actual plane tickets that were purchased and the names of the individuals. Yeah. And then when you purchased the plane tickets for my family, did you include my name and Why didn't you? You decided to leave me on Guam, and then she traveled to Seattle saying, "Oh, we're visiting Grandma, and my husband's on Guam doing whatever it was that he was doing, and we're just here to just visit. Pooh, we have no intention of moving back to Washington State." Could you get me the actual day of travel, what the flight numbers were? Pooch, when did you purchase the tickets, and how were they purchased? Because I think there's some people complicit in the crime of child abduction, international child abduction, and kidnapping. Now, it would be very fraudulent on the part of relatives because I can remember a few of my good friends that had married us, ooch, that thought, well, we might as well support her. Looks like they're having some marriage problems. And then they found out that she made up a story and put me in jail. Ooh, without any domestic violence or child abuse happening. And I did have evaluations, yes. And I did do 7 hours of parenting classes, yes. And she left everything we owned in the hotel room so that 10 days later, I had to go back to the hotel and get everything. Now, let me guess. She just took one travel bag with her, and all 5 of my sons just had a carry-on? Yes, as if she was leaving everything with me, her husband, and I was going to take care of all of our personal property that. Oh, I was left on Guam with everything that we own. It was just a carry-on. They had new clothes on. She thought that, or did she say, yes, my husband, he's on Guam and he's got every fucking thing we own.